humble pranams at the lotus feet of my beloved Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. My name is Sanjay Samani and I'm from Leicester in the United Kingdom. And I have the honor of presenting to you this short workshop about ideas and actions for an ideal Sai Center. Now, if I was to ask you if you think you belong to an ideal Sai Center, I don't think many of you would say, yes, I definitely belong to an ideal Sai Center and there's nothing we could improve. I think most of us would be in the category that would say, yeah, I would love our Sai Center to be an ideal Sai Center. So the purpose of this presentation is for us together to explore what is an ideal Sai Center and what are the ideas and actions that build an ideal Sai Center. So before we do that, we need to understand what is the purpose of not just the Sai organization, but the Sai Center itself. Is it about organizing activities, helping others, singing the Lord's praises, educating our children? What is the purpose of the Sai Center? Swami lovingly tells us that actually it's nothing to do with that. The main objective of the Sathya Sai organization is to help man recognize the divinity that is inherent in him. So this is all about our spiritual transformation. It is about our own individual journeys and those journeys of those people that we work with and their spiritual transformation. So if it's about that, why can't we just do that in our own homes? Why can't we just sit at home and recognize the divinity that is inherent in us all? Swami lovingly tells us a story of a man, if he has to walk 5 kilometers on his own, that journey may be difficult. He may lose hope halfway through the journey, become tired, become dispassionate, and at the end of the journey be tired and absolutely restless. However, if he did that journey, same journey, with a group of friends or like-minded people who would encourage him on his way throughout that journey, he may well end up at the end of the journey refreshed and ready to do more. So that's why we do these activities in the Sai Center. Ultimately, still remembering that it's to help us recognize the divinity that is inherent in all of us. So what are the building blocks for an ideal Sai Center? Well, it all starts with thinking about what we just did on that previous slide. Becoming more aware of what is the purpose of this organization and our Sai Center. Becoming aware of our own roles within the Sai Center as well. So it starts that in-depth understanding and awareness. As we build that awareness of our roles, it should lead us to some kind of transformation in our own attitude. And then when we have that firm foundation of awareness and attitude, then and then only then should we look at activities of the Sai Center. And always remembering that we do the best we can to the best of our ability. And then Swami will shower his grace on everything we do. So now let's explore each one of these blocks in a little bit more detail, starting with awareness. Why is it important to become aware of the purpose and the significance of the organization and also our roles and responsibilities? Why do we need to understand that and really understand it and not just say, yes, 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 I know everything about the organization, I know about the activities, I know about the wings. Again, Swami tells us a lovely story and the perils of what he calls half knowledge. He talks about a soldier, his commander, and a general. The soldier doesn't understand any English, and the commander tells him that the general will be inspecting the camp one day, and when he comes, he will be asking you some questions in English. But don't worry that you don't understand English. Just remember 3 answers. He'll ask you first of all, how long have you been serving in the army? And you say, don't worry about it, just say 10 years. Then he will ask you, how old are you? And you will say 30 years. And finally he will ask you, what's more important, serving your country or serving the army? And you will say, both, sir. Remember those answers. 10 years, 30 years, both, sir. Soldier remembers those answers and thinks, right, that's all I've got to remember. The day of the inspection comes, the general comes to the camp, and sure enough, he comes to the soldier and asks him, hey, soldier, how old are you? Soldier goes, first answer, 10 years. The general is looking very confused and perplexed. He then says, so how many years have you been serving in the army? And the soldier says, 30 years. Really? Are you making a fool of me, or are you the fool? Who's the fool here? And the soldier replies, both, sir. As you can imagine, so much harm can be done with just having that half knowledge, not understanding fully. The poor soldier, no understanding of English, did not know what he was answering. But here Swami talks about not learning parrot fashion, just what we need to know, just so we can impress others. He says we need to deep dive and really understand the purpose and the significance of what we're doing. And that is why it's so important for us to understand what is the significance of the organization, what is its purpose, what's my role and my responsibilities. Not only should I understand that, but it should be understood by all, existing devotees and also new devotees. How many times have we had new devotees come to our Sai Centers and they just get involved in our activities and no one spends much time talking to them, explaining to them what is the purpose of the organization, how we should do our activities, what attitude we do our activities with. But we just get so enveloped in the organization and its activities, we just throw everyone into them. Poor new devotees have no idea about this other background. So we also need to make sure they have a proper introduction to that as well. And finally, we need to follow the rules and regulations of our own countries. Swami says, not only should we be citizens of our country, but we need to be exemplary citizens, the best citizens who follow all the rules and regulations of our country. To give you a few examples, in the United Kingdom, we have something called safeguarding laws, which protect the children. So when we are running SSE classes or we're working with children in the community, it's important we know our rules and regulations and our own obligations around safeguarding and what the law says to us that we must ensure we do. So all our office bearers, all our volunteers, etc., need to understand what the rules and regulations of our country are and follow those. This awareness gives clarity of the path which is essential to reach the goal. This is what Swami says to us. We may wonder, why are all these rules and regulations there, and why do we need to really follow them? Why do we need to, understand them? Swami tells us here, rules and regulations are essential. First of all, whatever resolutions, what we pass at any of our conferences, they should be carried out wholeheartedly. Having passed these resolutions, you must pass in those. Then and then only can they be considered passed, when we implement those resolutions and those rules and regulations. Here are some ideas to help you build that awareness around the organization and our roles and responsibilities in our own centers. First of all, we could run study circles or workshops on the organization charter, the global operational guidelines which came out last year, and our own national guidelines as well. If the national guidelines don't exist, we need to develop those using the Global Council guidelines as a basis. So these help us adapt the global council guidelines to the rules and regulations in our own countries as well. And secondly, we could create a newcomers leaflet, which simply explains to any newcomers and devotees the purpose of the organization and our Sai Center activities. So just two simple ideas that we could put into place that will help us build this awareness. Now moving on to the next block. This is about the change in attitude. Swami says that that information that we build, that awareness that we build, should lead into transformation. Information is useless unless there is transformation. Instruction is useless unless there is construction. If we have that transformation, our own attitude of our members, and especially us and the leaders in our organizations, will also change. How do we do that? How do we build a change in our attitude? Again, very simply, Swami has taught us some simple guidelines through the 9-point code of conduct and the 10 guiding principles. But it's really important that we remember his words here, where we must first be, then we do, then we see, and then only do we tell. So it's no good us being there and saying, oh, I practice this and I do this and I do that. There's no space for exhibitionism here. We must have that integration in thought, word, and actions. And it's how we conduct ourselves with that knowledge and that change of attitude. Swami beautifully says, fishes are sold in heaps in the market. If you want to find fishes, they're sold in heaps in the market. But diamonds, they're carefully preserved at the jeweler's shop, and they're displayed only to those who deserve it. And that's what we want to be, the diamonds there. So here are some ideas around helping us build that awareness around our attitude and how we need to conduct ourselves. The 9-point code of conduct is so important, and it's how we practically can put that into practice. It's really, really important. Now, to do that, we could run workshops with our center members and leaders on this very topic there, taking each point of conduct, and running a workshop on that. There's also a fantastic book called the Sai Baba's Mahavakya on leadership. It's a fantastic, very practical, day-to-day book that we can implement. And chapters can be taken and workshops can be run around each of those chapters, helping us all become ideal leaders. And another idea is to encourage coordinators to conduct a self-audit. It's very personal. You don't show it to anyone, but you do this to understand what are the areas of improvement for me, myself. Where do I need to improve? And that will help us build that change in attitude and that transformation that Swami wants to see. Now, finally, we get on to the activities. Once we've built that strong foundation, now even the activities need to be well thought through. There are various different tests you can put these activities through. The first one is the activity an activity of need, or is it an activity of convenience? When acts are motivated by convenience and selfish interest, the dharma becomes a pseudo-dharma. Let me explain what this could be. For example, if we've done medical camps in our Sai Center for our devotees for the last 10 years, 3 or 4 times a year, we may have served all our devotees really, really, really well. But it's easy for us to organize. It's very convenient. We know the venues. We know how to do it. It's with our devotees. It's quite easy to do. So it could become a service of convenience. Where outside of our Sai centers, there could be a real need. It could be with the homeless. It could be the elderly, where we need to do these medical camps, but it's a little bit harder because it's harder to organize. So then, are we doing that service that's really needed, or are we doing that service out of convenience? The second pillar is around the spirit of the activity. What is motivating us to do this activity, and in what spirit do we conduct that activity? Swami talks about serving the Lord Narayan when we are actually serving others, the Lord Narayan who dwells in them. And remembering that, putting that face of Swami on every single person we serve helps us understand why we're doing that activity and understanding the spirit that we should do that activity in. And the most important thing, Swami is not interested in quantity. He is only interested in quality. So it's not important how many of these things we've done, about achieving targets and saying, we did this many of this and this many of that. Swami just wants to see the quality of even one activity. He talks about the fact that 2 ounces of cow's milk, just 2 ounces of cow's milk, are preferable to a whole pot of donkey's milk. So what do we want? We want cow's milk. We don't want the donkey's milk, do we? So here are some examples of activities that might be a bit different. You may well be doing them already in your Sai Centers, but just to give you some ideas of activities that fall into those 3 pillars that we talked about earlier. So within the spiritual wing, we could join interfaith groups within our community, really fostering that idea of the brotherhood of man that Swami talks about. We could invite faith leaders to come to our Sai Centers as well, to help us understand their faiths more and really develop that feeling of love amongst all brothers, regardless of faith. Under the education wing, absolutely we run our Sai Spiritual Balvikas education for our children. But what about introducing values clubs or SSEHV classes in the state schools in our countries? We could even organize national values drama festivals or song festivals. Under service, we've talked about some medical camps there, but doing them for the homeless or for the real needy. And then there's a wonderful environmental project that every country can get behind, which is the Prema Tharu project that's the Global Council has launched, where the aim is to have 10 million trees planted globally leading up to Swami's centenary celebrations. Now that was the core of the presentation, but as we were doing this presentation, there were issues raised by the team from centers from all around the world. And this is our humble attempt at providing some ideas and solutions for some of these challenges that the centers were facing. One of them was about the decreasing number of devotees attending Sai Centers. And the idea here was to have a devotee contact program. It could work that basically having that regular contact with members of our Sai Centers who may have now forgotten about what we do, especially after the pandemic, etc., where they may have lost contact with us, actually taking time to find out what's happening with them, understanding why they may not be coming to the center, and seeing if we can help them come back to the Sai Center there. But a feeling should be created that everyone is needed for the functioning of the center, not just the few core members. If everyone is assigned even the smallest duty, that yes, the altar is your duty, or putting Swami's chair out is your duty, they will feel part of the Sai Center and feel like, yes, I must come. That's my job. I will come and do that. Another point, a challenge that was raised was around the lack of participation in activities. And here it's about generating that awareness and interest in activities. So it's not just about doing the same old things that we've always done, but really thinking about, again, the services of need, around different ideas that we could do, and really thinking about, as a family, how would we want to do this, and getting everyone excited about participating in those events. Another challenge that people came up with is how do we encourage more youth participation, young adults participation in our activities. Now we've got to remember that young adults have their own interests and they're challenged and more in tune with different things. So for example, here in Leicester, number of our young adults are passionate about doing something for the homeless. So they go out on soup runs in the evenings and go and feed the homeless on the streets. That's what's of interest to them. That's what they're passionate about. A lot of them have a passion about the environment. So they really get behind environmental projects. So it's really important that we understand what activities will be challenging and inspiring for the youth to participate in. And finally, some people find difficulty in finding venues for activities. And I think here we just have to have faith. And this is about if we continue to dedicate our activities, even the smallest activity that we do, Swami will take care of everything else. But remember, you're not alone. We can collaborate and share resources with other Sai centers in our area. Sometimes we think in isolation, I'm based in Leicester, I can only do what's in Leicester. Think broadly. I can think about in our region, who could I support? Who could I get involved with? Who can I ask for help with as well? So in summary, the three areas we really need to focus on for an ideal Sai Center is awareness, attitude, and activities. At the core of it, remember, it's about our individual transformation. All of this is about that. The way we do everything, the undercurrent for every activity, every Sai Center should be love. And finally, remembering that He is the doer and we are just His instruments. And I'm going to let Swami have the final word here. And I'm going to read what he says. The conviction that I am everywhere, watching everything and aware of everything must keep you on the straight path of sadhana through seva and study. I want that every center and every unit must be bubbling with the joy at the work already achieved and with enthusiasm for the work ahead. So let us all be excited about the future ideal Sai centers that we'll all be building and the activities that we'll be doing. Jai Sai Ram.